Invest in yourself. I find it very, very important because when you are in a state of just overall feeling that you are your best asset, you perform a lot differently. And when I invested in myself at that time, like I said, I saw it as like, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to make it happen one way or another, especially when you put that type of money into something. What's going on, guys? It's your host, Alexa Pena, here for Walking Manifestator. I am so happy to be here, and I have a great thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about. As you probably know by now, in these series, we are really just talking about anything that is related to being a aware, conscious being in this journey that we all are embarking called life, right? And if you really think about it, being aware is something that taps into every single part of your life, whether that be your relationships, whether that be your friendships, your business ventures, anything. Because when you're going about life and you are just alive versus living, that is so detrimental to not only your mental health, your spiritual health, but also your physical health. And everything just ties in together. So, today, I really wanted to talk about investing in you. So, I am a big believer of investing in yourself, but not just in the shiny objects that most people think is a good investment. And don't get me wrong, I've been there. I definitely love buying myself some new pairs of shoes. I know that for a lot of people, maybe it's getting themselves jewelry, maybe it's buying yourself, I don't know, just going to the movies, going out to dine, whatever it might be. And those things are great, don't get me wrong, but there's a deeper investment in yourself. And honestly, I think that's education. And the funny part is that most people think of education as going and getting a degree. And although that is a very well known thing in this life of ours, right? Like, oh, go to school, get good grades, and get a degree and be successful. We all know by now that that's not something that is necessarily true. I have several people that I know that have graduated from, I mean, just overall stellar grades. They did everything by the book. And when it came out to being in the real world and having their degree, they couldn't land a job with that degree that they wanted. Or the income that they were actually making was just becoming very strenuous on their schedule and just not giving it what they actually wanted, what they envisioned. So I feel like we should normalize more the fact that investing in yourself doesn't necessarily mean to go and pay the school system for an education, but it can also mean finding people that are doing exactly what you are hoping to achieve. Let's just talk about real estate, for instance, right? So, for myself, when I first got started in real estate, I invested a lot of money in coaches. I was in Tom Ferry's coaching. I had several different coaches that had just done really, really good amount of production that I invested in to learn like what is it that they were doing. Also, a lot of stuff was online. I bought courses. Oh my gosh, I remember one of the first courses, I invested $25,000 into it to learn how to flip a house. And it was definitely very eye opening because a lot of those things, now looking back at it, I could have learned for a fraction of that cost. However, and this is the key part here, I don't regret it. At that time when I originally invested in it, it was for me, one of the best decision because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm embarking in this new journey and I'm going to become like this investor that's also flipping houses and I'm a realtor and I can just offer more services to my clients." So it was super exciting, right? And the reason I share this is because a lot of the times we let that external voices cloud our judgment and tell us like, "Oh, you're going to go and invest on that person? Like, oh, that's ridiculous. You can learn it on yourself." I remember I had this really good friend. He's a super successful person here in El Paso. He has several businesses and he told me once, he was like, "Why would you go and invest in a coach? Like a lot of those things you could just learn them yourself." And for somebody that's successful, I would have expected a different response. I would have expected somebody that, has been through the levels of success that he was going through to essentially say, like, yeah, like it's the best way to go about it. But you see, this is where consciousness and becoming aware of who you're choosing to invest in really comes into play, because there's two types of people in terms of what I'm about to say. There's people that think that you need to go and learn by the hard knocks in life, which I used to be one of those as well, that thought the only way to learn is by just like going through the trial and error. And then there's people that rather actually go and learn from people that have done it and now go down a route where it's more not necessarily guaranteed, because there's always going to be lessons in anything you go and actually, venture into. However, there's a sense of security, because if I'm showing you, hey, this is what I did on my first Airbnb and I can share that with you, and this is what was successful for me, does that mean it's going to 100% work exactly the way it worked for me? No. But now you know what to expect, right? So there's that anticipation, there's that awareness behind what you're getting yourself into because you did your research. And I'm not saying analysis paralysis is a good thing, because you don't want to overanalyze things. Sometimes you just have to have faith that things are going to work out. And that's how I honestly like to live my life now. I have shared with you guys, I love to manifest things because that's how I've been able to create what I've created up to this point in my life. And I continue to aspire to bigger things that some people might look at and say, yeah, that's crazy. But what is crazy, right? Like, that's just your perception of reality. That's what you consider to be out of your normal way of thinking. But to somebody else, that could be normal. Somebody making $10,000 a month, that's their normal, right, in their life. But then somebody that is making $100,000 a month looks at that like, you could do more, right? So, with that being said, investing in yourself, I find it very, very important, because when you are in a state of just overall feeling that you are your best asset, you perform a lot differently. And when I invested in myself at that time, like I said, I saw it as like, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to make it happen one way or another, especially when you put that type of money into something, right? You're like, I'm not going to let my money go to waste. So I remember once I kind of was going through the process and everything, there were some times where I was like, oh man, did I really like spend all this money on this? Like, this is all I got. And then became aware of, okay, well, now you're the only person stopping you from accomplishing what it is that you invested money into, right? If you really want to do something with this, then go and move forward and do something about it. Well, when I got my first return from actually doing a whole flip on my own, it was so rewarding because I saw what that investment did for me. Maybe it didn't happen right away, but it happened. And that's the way that investing in yourself works when it comes to education. It doesn't mean you have to go in and actually spend money on a degree that's going to label you a specialist in a certain field for, a diploma in school. That could also mean that you go and actually learn from people that are building 7, 8-figure businesses that you're like, oh my gosh. Or maybe you're in the 2 figures and you want to get into the 6 figures and you're like, oh my gosh, this person is doing 6 figures. Now they're about to get to the 7 figures. I want to follow their lead. I want to see what it is that they're doing. So for me, investing in myself has been one of the most rewarding things that I want to invite more of you to just be open to, because I know that back in the day, I was the type of person that was like, no, like all my money for me. I remember back then, I also didn't want to have either an assistant or I didn't want to have a transaction coordinator. Not only because I didn't want to, but I couldn't afford them. So at that point, I was like, no, like any money I make, just for me, just for me, just for me. And that puts you in a state of also lack, because think about it this way. You're already saying that you are not going to actually move forward and put focus on income producing activities because you're so focused on trying to protect this little nest that you just got versus trying to allocate your time wisely and go on and actually catch the next fish, right? So for me, when I actually hired my first assistant, that allowed me to really gain more time. And then when I hired my second assistant, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have time to actually go and do something that I have not only a passion for, but like this calling for. And I feel like those are the things that a lot of people don't realize sometimes. And I was one of them, that I felt like the more that I was spending, and I saw it as spending, okay, that I was losing money. But the reality is that I was investing in making more time for me so that I can then later invest more into my business, in myself, in my kids, in my family. So when we invest in ourselves, it has a ripple effect. And what does it mean to continuously expand? Like, look at yourself specifically and where can you allow for more expansion in your life? Think about it. Like, where can you truly allow for more expansion to happen? And I want you to kind of picture it like a container. Okay. So imagine in your normal thinking, you have like, this is the most that I've ever made, right? Let's just put a number to it, 100,000. And you're like, you know what? This is what's normal for me. I don't have the frequency to actually even picture what it would be like to make this amount of money. So, by you starting to tap into your conscious thinking and become aware of what it is that you are trying to attract, your mind stops focusing on the lack and it starts focusing on the goal. So I'm going to read something to you. This is actually by Matt and Ashley. They're yoga instructors. They have this book, highly recommended. And they talk about, I didn't even say the book, I'll highly recommend it. It's The Inner Work. And they talk about this quote that I'm going to share. The only enemy to ever exist is an eternal one. It is hiding in the very last place you'd ever look, within yourself. And I wanted us to really sit and think about what that means for a second. So I feel like a lot of the times we are in situations where we're constantly thinking of like, I would be so happy if I could make the money that I want. I would be so happy if I would get the partner that I want. I would be so happy if I could start making, you know, my dreams a reality and traveling all around the world. That is when I'll be happy. Like, let that happen. And that is when I'm going to be happy. But that is not a healthy way of living. And think about this. When you can actually tap into your internal peace, that internal bliss, that internal happiness, the external things are not going to play a factor. That is not what's going to fulfill you. Your actual happiness, your bliss is going to come from within you. And a lot of the times we're so stuck on trying to find something in the external reality to make us happy, which is why it says that until we realize that, it's always going to be an enemy, right? It's really talking about how so many people think that we need something, someone, some place in order for us to be happy. But the reality is that happiness is a choice. And I know that from experience, guys. Like, I shared with you guys briefly a little bit of my story. I haven't even got into more of the stuff that I've been through, which I'm sure you all can relate. We've all been through some crazy stuff, maybe some more than others, right? And it wasn't until I became aware that I was done being the victim in my story that things started to change. Because when you are trapped in this like internal dialogue where you're the victim constantly, nothing can change your perspective, and there's never going to be any room for new ideas. And I call them containers because think about it. If all your containers in your mind are full, you're never going to make room for expansion. You're never going to make room for anything new to really come about. It's like if, and I'm going to use this example, let's say in your mind, you have the perfect person that you visualize as being your person, right? Let's say you're a guy and you like, I don't know, blonde girls or brunette girls or redheads or whatever the case is. And let's say you're a girl and you only like guys that are, 6 feet taller or above, or you only like guys that have like black hair, whatever it is. but you have an idea of what it is that you consider to be what you want. However, by you being stuck on a certain idea of how like your end result is, not necessarily what you want this person to be, like the morals, the character, like how they're going to push you to be a better person, but you're just stuck on, oh no, like they have, they're too short for me. I'm not interested. Or, oh no, she doesn't have the type of hair that I want. That's not even something I would even look at in that direction. You're closing yourself off to the opportunities that the universe is literally putting right in front of your face every single day. And a lot of the times, we miss so many opportunities because we're just so stuck on what we consider to be what we want versus what we actually deep down desire and what we actually need. So I feel like a lot of the times when it comes down to it, it is so important to just be in a state of actually understanding that whatever it is in life that you are trying to achieve, whatever it is in life that you are going for, by you becoming aware of where you can expand, of what it is that your inner consciousness is telling you, and by you investing in yourself, you're able to truly grow. You see, for me, public speaking was something that when I was little, it was like totally fine because I love to talk. But then some stuff happened in my life and I became very shy and I didn't really want to talk in front of people. And I remember that at that time, it was something that really triggered me. And up until recently, actually, like I'd be perfectly fine talking to my clients. I'd be perfectly fine going and, I mean, just being me. But then I noticed that when I got in front of stage for the first time, I had to give like this like lecture in front of other people. And I was so nervous. Like I could literally hear like I remember the instructor was like, "Oh, can you mention like what is your favorite movie?" And your girl literally froze. Like I did not know. Apparently I've never watched a movie because all that came out of me was, I read books." Like, girl, what? So that happened though because I was putting myself in a situation that was making me uncomfortable. And the more that you put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable, the more that you are growing. And I feel like a lot of the times, like you hear this stuff and you're like, oh, yeah, like easier said than done, Alexa. Or, yeah, like these are things that all sound great and everything, but that's just not for me. And it's like, why isn't it for you? Is it because you're saying that it's not for you and that's what you're making your reality? We go back into the paradigm. A paradigm is a series of events that have almost exclusive control over you based off your habitual behavior. So you keep acting a certain way based off how you've been conditioned. If you were raised in a situation where you and your family struggled and you didn't have a lot of money, when you grow up and you have money, you have limiting beliefs around it. Therefore, you think that whatever you're making now, you should be happy with. When in reality, you know that maybe you want more. And I feel like a lot of the times, and I was one of these people, I used to think that like people that had money were like evil, right? That was because of my paradigm. That was because of how I was raised, right? So in reality, though, some of the wealthiest people that I've met, my gosh, they have the hugest hearts. Like they're going and giving to charities, they're going and donating, they're going and opening up schools. Like one of my mentors that I'm doing right now, that I'm like having coaching classes with that is helping me do my TEDx talk is literally an amazing person. He is opening up schools in like Africa and like Kenya, just different places and just trying to empower the community. And I feel like these things that we have told ourselves for so many years are something that we just have to be aware of in order for us to truly change, to be able to make those new patterns, those neural patterns that we need in order for it to become a new norm, something normal for us, right? And a lot of the times when it comes down to it, if you don't invest in yourself, you're never really going to grow. That's the reality. Like I know so many people that they're like, "Oh yeah, well like I never, that's never something that I learned, like they didn't teach it to me." And I know for a fact there's so many things that I know now that nobody taught me. I picked up a book, I invested in a course, I invested in a mentor, and I learned it. And that's how I continue to evolve because you don't come into this earth with a manual. You don't come into this earth with all the answers. You come into this earth so that you can learn. And I feel like earth is really like one of the best schools, right? And if you allow it to, it can shape you into the highest and truest version of you. And it's so important because as you continue to go through this journey of yours, I need you to really, and this is something that I wish somebody would have told me, I need you to dream big. I remember so many people like just said like, "Oh, that's unrealistic." Why is it unrealistic? Is it because it's just unrealistic for them because they never achieved it? Therefore, they're imposing their limiting beliefs onto you? Like, what do you really want in life? What would you say just like fuels you to the point where you would do that no matter if you got paid or not? And like maybe you're even shy to say it out loud because you feel like, oh my gosh, I'd be so judged if like I told somebody that this is what I want to do. Maybe you want to be like, I don't know, just a vlogger and going around the world and traveling and making videos about where you're traveling to, or like somebody that's like a food, what is it? A food critic, a food taster. I think it's a food critic. Yeah, Alexa, words. I mean, whatever it is that you have in your life, that is really something that you're like, Look, if I could do this, this would just like overall be the most rewarding thing for me." And I feel like for most of us, we don't ask ourselves that question. And some people, they never ask themselves that question, which leads to that last point that I made, which is, are you alive or are you living? Are you living your best life? If you were to drop dead tomorrow, sorry, I'm going to get very, very real here. And as you know, we're going to be very real in this podcast. So for those, appreciate that. I appreciate you. But like if you were to, not be here anymore tomorrow, could you really say that you lived your best life? And I'm not talking about going and traveling and just like spending it with, people that you found to have fun when you were drinking and things of that nature. Like, no, like, do you really think you made an impact for your family or for yourself in some meaningful way? Because I feel like if your answer is yes, then hey, congratulations, you're doing an amazing job. But if the answer is no, don't beat yourself up. Just become aware of that and start working toward doing something that's going to really help you feel like you're doing something for your highest and truest self. I feel like deep down inside, we all have this calling within us that is like just speaking to us like, you can do more, but sometimes we've ignored it. And again, sometimes, most of the time, it's been because of somebody else in our life, because of something that somebody told us, made us feel, some bully at one point in our life. And it's like, why are you going to let somebody that doesn't matter in your world affect you that way? You are not an extra in your movie. Like, please don't be an extra in your movie. Be the main character. Like, you need to have that main character energy and bring it, because at the end of the day, people are always going to have something to say, whether it's good or bad. Somebody's always going to have their opinion. And hey, like, God bless them. And, there's a saying that says it in Spanish. It's like, Dios los bendiga y a ti no, que a nosotros no nos desampare. And it's like, God bless them and bless us as well. And I feel like it's so true, because at the end of the day, if you are constantly in a situation where you're just worried about what everybody's going to say and what they're going to say and how it's going to make somebody feel, you're never going to really please anybody, especially yourself, because you can't please everybody. When you're trying to please everybody, you please nobody. So start working on yourself. And I am going to read you that quote once again. The only enemy to ever exist is an eternal one. It is hiding in the very last place you'd ever look, within yourself. Do not let your story end as you being your enemy. Become your hero. Push yourself, invest in yourself. Go and do that thing that people think that is crazy and out of this world. Remember that everything that is once started with a thought. We are energy, guys. This is proven. The chair you're sitting on, or the couch you're laying on, or the sofa, or whatever it is that you're on right now, or anything that is around you is energy. We are frequency. We carry that energy within us. When we are putting out our best foot forward, Energy that is going to be positive is going to be reciprocated to us. And depending on how situations continue to unfold, how you react to those situations is going to play such an impact in your life. Some people think like, "Oh, well, just because of the fact that I'm always putting good out, I should always get good back." Remember, you can appreciate the good without the bad. Love yourself, invest in yourself, and as I always say, honestly, you you really do have the power to unleash your innate power within. You just have to become aware that you are not the thoughts in your head. You are the consciousness above those thoughts. And you can really be the architect of your truest and highest version. Live your best life. With that being said, I appreciate you guys deeply for staying tuned. I've been hearing a lot of your messages, and I just appreciate all the support, honestly, whether it's 10 of you, 20 of you. I know at one point in time, I'm manifesting that into existence. It's going to be an entire multitude of people that I just want to inspire for them to do all these things. And it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter your upbringing, it doesn't matter what you didn't have. Those are the exact reasons why you will succeed.